All right, so I'm streaming on Twitch um, and YouTube. And for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, um, this is the first time I'm really streaming a live prep session on Twitch. So I'm focused more on looking at Twitch right now, but I will be checking back and forth through Twitch and the YouTube in case someone pops in. But today, I actually have a very practical goal. I am here prepping for my new session of Supernatural 20. It's my horror campaign that I run about a monthly basis. I'm trying to get at least one episode in a month, in addition to all the other things I'm doing here on the channel. Um, and this one's a horror themed campaign. So the first episode, we did a one shot called Mask of the Worms by the Arcane Library. And now for this second episode, I'm preparing a new one shot. Oh, and that's kind of the shtick, is that it's a one shot campaign. So you can always watch this, and you don't really have to watch the episodes beforehand. You can always just jump right in. And yeah, so I'm going to be preparing a new session. If you're a player of mine, please stop watching because this would be, critical information for Sunday. But we're going to be going over a Dungeon Magazine one shot that I'm preparing called Escape from Meanlock Prison. And it is a fantastic module. The Dungeon magazines, uh, even for Dragon Magazine for that, I didn't really read too much of that one, but Dungeon Magazine has some great one shots and even multi shot campaigns in it. And so we're going to talk about this adventure, an overview, and then I'm going to get into my last prep for it. If you're new to the channel and you're watching this on YouTube, then hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. If you're on Twitch, follow me. And I post to both channels when I go live and I stream a game. I have an Icewind Dale Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign that meets every Tuesday. This Supernatural 20 campaign that meets every month. And I've got a lot of ideas and other videos that I do on the YouTube channel. So, yeah, like I said, hit all those buttons. Okay, so let's jump right in here. So I have the Roll20 open here, and I think it's probably best to explain the overview of this adventure. And I think I'll actually see if I can find it here. I think I might have the adventure already uploaded onto my Google Drive. Yes, I do. Okay, good. All right, good. So I'm gonna open this up on the screen here. I'm just gonna switch over OBS to this actually. I'm going to do a quick overview, and then I'll jump back to Roll20, where I can finish putting some final touches on this. I've actually ran this adventure before. I've ran it twice in the past. It was such a great adventure. I ran it for a group of my friends that I played with, forever, and I also ran it with another group of people. Actually, to be honest, both old friends that I've played with, but um, I really love this adventure, and it fits perfect with the horror theme. So I've decided to run it for a third time. But it's weird. Once you run an adventure once or twice, you do get a feel for what needs to change, and that's really what I'm here to do. So let me just switch over to that. Yeah, here we go. Perfect. All right. So this is the cover. It was Dungeon Magazine episode 1, or excuse me, number 143, I want to say. Oh, 146. There it is, up top. 146. You can see here, it's one of the adventures from the three, or the choice that they have there. And this is Meanlock Prison. All right, the cover art's fantastic. There is the cover art that I'm showing on my thumbnail, but it has a full page spread where you can see the other half here, and beautiful, just great artwork. Um, these old dungeon magazines had such a feel for the setting, the grittiness of D&D worlds, and you can see here this tagline. It's really kind of encompasses everything about this session. What you are, we once were. What we are, you shall become. And so the premise of this is that there is a winery, a vineyard, and this winery does kind of has a dual purpose. It actually is a prison underground, and on top is a vineyard. It's called I forget what it's called. The wine is called Dissidence wine, and the vineyard, now I'm forgetting it, but um, it basically the vineyard is owned by this man named uh, Tamner or Stamner Parks. He's the warden, so Warden Parks is what he's called in the book, and he runs both the vineyard and the prison. And the prison is a place where people from like Greyhawk, that's the setting really, Greyhawk, they send people they want to make disappear there. Sometimes for the good of the people they send them there, but other times it's just because they don't want to deal with these people, and executing them might be worse. So it's for people that they need to get rid of, put aside. And the basically the story is that the players are going to go to meet this prison, um, to pick up two prisoners. They're going to be transferred for their court hearing or something like that. So it's a very mundane adventure hook. Um, the story starts where the PCs are in the retired jailer's home, Taro Schick, and he's an older man. He's been jailing people for a long time, and he knows one of the group members, or there's ways to get connected, but ultimately he gets the group to take on this mission. He's going to pay them 500 gold pieces, which is quite a lot. So that kind of should tip off the players that this is a serious thing, that these criminals that they're going to be transporting are important. And he gives them a envelope that basically has the two prisoners' names, but because these are high profile people, he doesn't want the players to open up the envelope and know who they're transporting. They prefer if everyone just didn't know anything. Now, of course, this seems like a very, again, mundane sort of mission, and I think the players would probably be thinking that someone would ambush them, try to free these prisoners. The story does a great job of keeping the players thinking that they're in one type of story. That it's a very normal, typical fantasy setting. They're going to be doing a easy mission that something is going to, get in their way. But I don't think most people will be ready for the horror aspect and what the twist is going to be. So that's where we go to the prison. So once the group agrees, they take the envelope with the names. That's the prison transfer information. They head off. You can skip any travel that you want. You can say, okay, prepare yourself. If you need to go to buy supplies, you can. But other than that, we're going to head to the prison. And if they decide to, if you're going to make this into a multi-shot deal, if you only have 2 hours or 3 hours to put into it, and you think it might be 2 sessions, then give them maybe a random encounter on the way. But I'm not going to do that because I want this all to be done in one sitting. So that's what I'm going to do. When they get to the prison, they get to the estate grounds, and it shows you kind of like the layout of the land here. So the background is that the chateau, the vineyard, by the time they get there, there has already been a ton of development at the prison. First off, there was a prison riot. Um, some prisoners tried to get out, but really the sinister part here is that mean locks, which are small, I believe in fifth edition they're fey creatures, but they're just like aberrant monsters. So they're creatures that live underground. They find small, dark places to live in and make their nests, and they like to bring people down into their nests and then convert them into other mean locks. So a mean lock group burrowed into the chateau, the prison of the chateau. And the mean locks, which I think if I can find a picture of a mean lock here. There's a lot here. Oh, here's a mean lock. Okay. They have changed over the years what they look like. Their appearance is more bug like in fifth edition, but they're more like a hybrid bug humanoid creature. And basically, um, they have overrun this prison. There's like three or four of them, and what they do is so horrifying. Rather than just like go and kill their enemies, they use this mind attack ability that they can do. They can seep into the player's mind, a person's mind, and give them these mental phantasms where they can drive them insane, basically driving to the brink of insanity before they come and get them. So they instill fear in their opponents, and they kind of taunt them. They will do this and over and over and over again. And in the original edition, they did wisdom damage, like straight up wisdom damage. So they would bring someone to almost to zero wisdom, kill them effectively, and then turn them into a mean lock. They can also fight. They have some paralyzing poison claw or bite, something like that. They also have a fear effect, fear aura. In fifth edition, that's still there. And we're going to take a look at the mean lock stat block in a little bit. But yeah, so the mean locks are terrifying. And they've broken into this prison, and they have had their way with the prisoners because the prisoners are trapped, right? They cannot escape. So some of the prisoners then stage a jailbreak where they actually overthrow the guards, take the keys, and kill or throw in prison the rest of the owners of the chateau, including Warden Parks. Once they go through with their overthrow, they actually realize that they could make a con out of this. And one of the prisoners, Rook Mir, Errol Rook Mir, that's his name. He's this guy, the shady, yeah, there he is, Rook. So he thinks that he can go over and con some people. He has a meeting with one of the people that was supposed to pick up a shipment of wine, and he's basically going to sell everything to this man for an extremely low price because, it's not his wine. So he's going to take as much money as he can, and then he's going to leave. And that's where the PCs come into play here. They show up to the vineyard when the criminals, when the prisoners are loading the carts up with wine for this very wealthy business owner who's going to use these crates of wine at his restaurants, inns, whatever. And because nobody knows what the warden is supposed to look like, what the guards are supposed to look like, they play it off as though they're just doing their jobs. There will be some small little giveaways like looking for keys, and when they opens the envelope, there'll be some surprise, but it's going to be hard for them to figure out that they're being conned, the players at least. Both games, both groups went willingly into the prison. When they show up, Rook tells them that his prisoners are in cell block 6 and 12 or whatever. He gives them the numbers, and says, here are the keys, throws them the keys, and says, you have to go and get the prisoner yourself because we're so short staffed and we've got a big order we're trying to fulfill. So if you excuse me, I will show you. Mr. Fine is the man's name who's going to show you to the elevator. When they get to the elevator, they descend into the prison, and madness ensues. So that is how the setup goes. Once they get into the prison, then they try to find the prisoners, but first off, they're not the right prisoners that they need unless they were to open the envelope and look and see the names of the people. Again, they could do that, but there's really no incentive for them to do that, so they probably won't. And then they're going to have to scramble, figure out who the person that they're looking for is. Maybe they won't be able to figure out who the person is. There's two prisoners, I should say, where the people are. But Meanlocks are going to start attacking, start using their mind abilities on them, and trying to drive the characters insane. Ultimately, the character is going to be locked in the basement, but there are some methods, routes of escape that they could take. So that's the basic principle of the adventure. Now let's go into Roll20. And I'm going to check on the streams here. Let's see. All right. Okay, so let's switch it over to the correct browser. Yeah, here we go. So this is Roll20. I have set up the Roll20 for my players. This is the Supernatural 21 that I used for Mask of the Worms. So I've got a couple of other things here. So the vineyard without any of the markings on it, so that just so they could see the surroundings. This is not a map we're going to be on very long. It's just kind of to show them how to get in. But once we get to the prison level is when we get onto the actual gridded map, and this map is going to be very important. So I ended up taking this straight from the book. Yeah, took it straight from the book, and I went to what was it? I used a snipping tool, and I cut it out, and then aligned it to the grid, and I set up some NPCs here. Now, the one thing about this adventure that can be annoying to run is there are tons of NPCs in the dungeon. There's prisoners here, and all of them have a intricate backstory. Some of them more intricate than others, and they're not even that important. So, what I'm going to do, I think, is go through each area and then decide if I need that person in the game. Although, in theory, I could at any moment just say that the prisoner is in their cell is dead. So if I running short on time, I could just take out prisoners as necessary. The tokens could stay there. I don't have to go crazy in game to removing them. But if that's the case, then the players can, see a prisoner and he's dead. As long as he's not critical to the role here. There are two prisoners that are super important to the story, and one of them is right here. This would be the Blessed of Paylor. He's a cleric, basically, that some people don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. He's basically a political activist, but kind of takes things too far. So even the Church of Paylor, they don't know if he's a good person or not. He's not like a cleric in good standing. So they don't give you a backstory other than that. But I basically consider him to be like a revolutionary that was too controversial, and he was put here in prison because he was a troublemaker, basically. And they didn't want to have to kill him because that might cause a riot. But until his trial or whatever it is, they could let the violence over his capture subside, something like that. Then there's a couple of other people, and I think it would be this character right here. It's supposed to be the son-in-law of the actual warden, and he is here because the warden threw him in jail. I think he was cheating on his wife, the warden's daughter, and I guess as punishment, he threw him in prison for like a week. But within that week, the Meanlocks sprung up, and the prisoners overthrew the warden, and they threw the warden into this cell. and the warden is actually in the process of being turned into a mean lock. So he's here underneath the bed. He'll be hiding. The picture is horrifying. It's the one from the cover. So yeah, so let's go through each area. I'm going to read through them so that it's pretty clear as to um, what the uh, what the room is like. But you know, I'm going to be doing this quickly because this is my DM prep. I'm thinking though that eventually I will do a actual guide for um, this mission, and I'm going to post it somewhere. I don't know exactly the best place to post things. I have my Google Drive. Obviously, I could share a link to it, make it kind of public, but and maybe I'll do that. And then when I make a YouTube video about it, I'll link those in there and my notes, so it'll be easy to follow. But the characters all descend here. It's going to be awesome because I'm going to put the dynamic lighting on. There we go. So the dynamic lighting is going to be on. Did it not go? Oh, did I do it the wrong? I did for the wrong one, didn't I? Yes, there we go. So the dynamic lighting is going to be on, so it's going to be super dark. It's going to be super scary, creepy in here. And, you know, for example, one of my players, oh, he doesn't have dark visions, but one of the characters that has dark vision, we'll throw them in there. So this is what they'll see, right? Oh, and apparently, oh yes, all the dynamic lighting ended up getting, oh no, that's not it. I'm taking them from my library. I want to go to the actual character. All right, so Michelle's character, Bear, has great dark vision. He's a deep gnome. So, you know, they will be in tight quarters. There's 6 of them, so it's going to be even harder for them to, like, you know, really move around. Most of the hallways are just 5 feet by 5 feet wide. You know, some of them are human. Some of them won't have vision. But, you know, when they go around, you know, the vision's gonna follow them. It's gonna be super creepy. Now they cannot go across the barriers here. I've set it up so that they can't, but I'm in the GM view, so I can move them wherever I want. But they'll be stuck. The walls won't be passable. They'll have to go, you know, throughout. And so, like here, they can't see past the door until the door opens. So here's where we'll start because this is where it really gets real. This room right here. I'm gonna get to my page. Yeah, so they come down the elevator and they walk through this hall here. In fact, this hall is filled with like wine bottles and racks. It hides doors that are to the left, and there's nothing to the right, but it does hide these doors which connect to these series of rooms. They most likely won't be able to get into these rooms because they are locked, and there are keys they can get from one of the guards that open these, but for the most part, they won't get there till the end. When they get to this area, this is the prisoner processing room, and it reads 2 chairs sit behind an old desk in front of a large tapestry gracing the south wall. Wide padlocked double doors dominate the west wall. To the east, a door is made of iron bars, and a dark puddle shines in the center of the floor. So this one is the room where they find this puddle of blood. It leads them to this door, which is slightly ajar. So the characters might be creeped out by that. When they open the door, there is a person lying on the floor. Their intestines are spewing out blood everywhere, and they're not dead. They look up at them, smile, before being dragged into this open cell by their intestines. So this is a point in the game where I'm going to have them make a saving throw against sanity or the madness effects. I do have a video on my YouTube channel about how I do madness and sanity in this game, so you can check that out. But this is where the first time it's going to hit them. They are in a very different kind of story. Okay, so they thought they were going to have a quick, you know, get these 2 prisoners, you know, kind of like a pick up and delivery mission, and maybe they get ambushed or something. No. It's if they go in here and they don't know who they're looking for, they just have the information from the warden, they are basically screwed. All right, they will probably fail the mission. That goes without saying. And one of the groups I did run this for, I TPK'd. I didn't really want to kill them all, but you know, it happens sometimes. Um, and yeah, so with 6 of them, I have a feeling they won't get a TPK, but my goal is always to make the players feel like they could die. And if they, one of them were to die, it would kind of make it real. And that will be important. So they'll have to play it smart, but this is where they'll realize they're in a very different kind of game. Now, let's just check on the Twitch here. All right, cool. So if the players decide, okay, well, we're not going any further, this is horrifying, they can run back to the elevator. But when they get back to the elevator, Mr. Fine is not there. There was also supposed to be a Mr. D down in the prison, and there's no Mr. D, so they can't find him. They'll call up, they'll get no answer. They will realize that they are stuck. All right, let's go down. So once this character gets dragged into the cell, they're called the Anglers. It's actually a group of people who are super insane from the Meanlock mind rend, and they're here to trap the Meanlocks actually, but they might trap the group, and they're gonna come at them with like some sort of shank or shiv or whatever. They're gonna come at them with a small uh, sharp weapon, sharp object, and they're gonna try to do their best to kill them. The party's gonna probably just kill these 2 guards, or excuse me, these 2 prisoners, but it will show them how deranged these prisoners are. Then we go to the next cell. Yeah, so there's a couple of different things here. There are supposed to be dead bodies. So like all these doors have a little window that they could look into, a barred window, and in here would be actually a dead NPC. So that one would be a dead creature or dead body. Then all the other cells here are empty, but as they get to this cell, which is already open, they have someone here who's supposed to be pretending to sleep. No, I'm sorry. Actually, there's supposed to be someone in this one. So let me put an NPC here, because I've also tried to reset this from when I ran this last. So I'm just going to take an NPC from up here. So there's supposed to be an NPC here who's pretending to be dead. So if they were to open it, he's not really dead and he would try to escape. This one I most likely will keep dead, I think, because it's just really not worth having this extra PC when there's so many. Yeah. So then you have this door that is open. In this door, you have a man who is on death row. This sickly odor issues from a man lying in the fetal position on a cell floor. Dried, bloody rags cap the stumps where his legs have been severed at the knees, as if in the midst of a nightmare. His eyes dart behind closed lids, and his sweaty hair flicks from side to side. So this one, they will meet this man because this is also going to be another madness check. This is a pretty gruesome image, so this will be another madness check. Probably going to make these checks low, probably like 10, 11, or 12. I kind of decide, in the moment, depending on what's happening, but real low, 12 the highest. And then once they get to here, they have 2 other prisoners here. So one of them is a surgeon. That's right. This man's the surgeon. He actually is the one who did the amputating on this guy over here. But he's relatively nice. He's like an NPC that'll be on their side. He was a doctor that could not save like a noble's kid. It wasn't his fault. He couldn't save them, but because the people were mad that their child died, they threw him in prison. So he's actually not so bad. He'll cooperate as long as they aren't super mean to him. He'll tell them about the Meanlocks, and this is when one of the Meanlocks strikes. So there'll be a Meanlock lurking in the corner here, and he'll be using his mind rend ability on the creatures down the hallway. They have pretty good dark vision, so I'm going to place one of the Meanlocks there. Actually, I'm going to place them. I'm going to place them here, but I'm going to place them in the GM view because I don't want them to be seen. I'll place him there. And he can come out, and I'll just have him being the mind rend ability. They can also Misty Step, basically, or sorry, Dimension Door. But, in the 5e version, it's basically just a free teleport as a bonus action. So anyway, then there's this person here who is what is he? Yeah, so this guy is a torture survivor. He's missing a hand. A lot of people missing body parts here. He, again, he's weeping and pleads with the PCs. I might have him, introduce himself, but I'm not going to go crazy as he's kind of on the edge of insanity anyway. He'll if they want to let him free, they can. One of the groups I ran didn't let any of the prisoners go. They were like, if you're in here for a reason, so I don't trust your story, even if it's like a sob story. And then the other group I had freed almost all of them, or at least quite a bit of them, and they had like a whole crew of prisoners that they were traveling along with. So once they fight the Meanlock here, this Meanlock will try everything it can to escape and not die. If it were to die, it dies. They can inspect the body, look at it. It's terrifying looking. If it gets away, it will alert the other Meanlocks, and all 4 of them will come out a little bit earlier. So once they turn the corner here, this is when the story progresses. They meet the Blessed of Paylor that I talked about before. It's really cool is I actually have a player in this campaign. One of my players, Dasha, is running a paladin, Orel, a paladin of Paylor, just by chance. So there should be some good role-playing between the two of them, because she would probably give her advantage on this history check to know about him, and maybe the order that she's with condemns his stance, whatever. So maybe there'll be some really good philosophical back and forth with them. Let's see. So once we go on here, there are a ton of different... Oh, and I should say, so the Blessed of Paylor is one of the people that they're supposed to take back. If they don't open the envelope, they won't know that it's him. But there is a way to get that information. So when the characters are here and they're starting to feel the presence of the Meanlock and rending their minds, actually, I don't think that the actual adventure does a good job with this. So I ended up kind of changing it. There is a scene here where the first time the Meanlock reaches into, probes the mind of a character, that it brings them this like horrifying image, basically. Yeah, so the Meanlock projects a phantasm of a bald man with a third eye, the Blessed of Paylor from Area 7, interacting with a second PC, preferably one whose name it has overheard. So here's the deal. The actual prisoners that they're supposed to pick up would be the Blessed of Paylor and another prisoner called Lyle Benedict. Now, Lyle Benedict was part of the crew that broke out. He's actually upstairs. They would see him pretty early on. He'd be loading the carts with wine. So, but like I said, if the PCs don't open that letter, there's no way they're going to figure out who it is, because the actual cells that Rook and his crew give them would be this cell, the man with the stumps, and one of these cells, like this one or this one, whatever it is, they give them the cells of their friends. So it's, they're hoping that their friends could escape. And they're definitely not going to care or give them the right one. So unless they knew who they were looking for, there's no chance that they're going to know that the Blessed of Paylor is someone they need to free. So I made it so that this premonition or this phantasm is more meaningful. So this phantasm the character sees is that this bald man with the third eye, the Blessed of Paylor, it's like a tattoo, I believe, is interacting with second PC, and I'm going to say that second PC is Lyle Benedict, the escaped prisoner that's upstairs. And the bald man says to him, "We have the same initials." And after a pause, jumps with supernatural speed into the second PC's body. So there you go. So I'm going to connect it so that it's like a premonition. The mean lock probes their mind, but gives them some sort of psychic ability even for a fleeting moment to know the people they need to get. And the Blessed of Paylor is obviously his, name that he goes by. I gave him the name of Lucius Bellevue. So his actual name would be Lucius Bellevue. If anybody knows the history on the Blessed of Paylor, perhaps my paladin Orel will, then I would give the full name, and that way they would be able to connect the dots. And once they do find out who Lyle Benedict is, which some of these prisoners could tell them, then they will know. Okay, so it's a long shot. It's not saying that this is going to happen. Most likely, they will not be able to get Lyle Benedict because he's already upstairs, and they might be free by the time the PCs end up getting up there. But either way, it's a chance. And then, so when the battle ends, the mean locks that are in the other areas, which are further in the prison, the second time they do that, they can basically give them more phantasms. They'll whisper things to them like, "What you are, we once were. What we are, you shall become." These messages will repeat in the person's head, and that'll start the madness. And it just more chances for madness will be good. So once the PCs get to this area, they start to progress the story. They'll meet a couple of other prisoners here. Now, there are a bunch of prisoners and some elaborate backstories that I think I'm going to have to cut out. So I think here's where we're really going to have to trim the fat. Although I did say this guy is optional, I'm going to mark him as... I think I'll mark him as pink. Pink will be optional characters. So this will be an optional encounter. In fact, this one, I'll just make him dead to begin with. I don't think I'm going to use him. So a dead character there and a dead character here. All right, so those characters are dead. This character would be optional to use him or not. All right, so let's go through. 7A is the jailbreaker. I just want to make sure I'm on the right room here. So yeah, they also don't label the rooms all too well. I should probably do that. Let me put in some numbers here. I want to do this in GM view because I want to be able to see it. All right, so text. This is room 7A. This is room... Oh, I want to make that a little... I want to make it a little brighter. Make it a little bigger, too. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, good. Okay. All right, so I'm going to actually delete that old one here. Oh, I could change it, can't I? Moved. I'll just delete it. All right, let's go back into text. So this one is size 22. We'll make it red. It's going to be 7A. This one will be 7B. This is 7C, or D, I should say, 7D. This one is 7C. All right, and those are the 7s. All right, so 7D, 7C, 7A, 7B. Then we've got 8. This is 8A. This is area 8. That's the way they do it, at least. Area 8, and this is area 7. And then you got 8A here. All right. And then you've got, these don't have an area here. These are, I guess, well, they're named players. I'm not sure why they don't have anything there. Maybe they're dead. Yep. Nope, they're not dead. They are awake prisoners. So I'll go back to them in a second. But then we have up top, we've got 8. So 8 is done, actually. 9 is here, and it's 9A and B. 9A, 9B. Okay, great. So there's my rooms. This was C. Sorry, 6C. Area 6. This was area 5. And this was area 4. And this was area 3. Area 2. And area 1. Okay. And then the sides here would be area 10, 11, and 12. I'll put these here for now. 10, 11, and 12. Okay. So there's all the numbering here. But when you get to this area here, 7A is the... okay, so maybe I'm missing someone. There should be someone else here. 6C. Did I miss 6C? Oh, no. Yeah. Okay, so this is actually... Yeah, I did. I made a mistake here. There actually should be another creature here. Let me see. What other creatures am I missing? So I've got 1, 2... Yep, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this person does not need to be there. Guess this person is not in this room. So I can bring this person down here to B. Okay. So so there's a couple of creatures here. One of these, this guy's actually the instigator. I'll leave him there because he looks like an instigator. He's just someone who will attempt to attack if they let him out. This person is the person going insane, so I'll use them as a pink. Okay. Now when you get up here to 7A, it's when you start to get to some weird characters. The Jailbreaker 7A, this guy has, his name is Terium Trust. He's a lifetime servant of a man. He paid for his own incarceration in order to get into the prison and break his master out. Unfortunately, the guards foiled his plans when they confiscated his fake leg, which is also in the cabinet in the processing room, containing dust of disappearance, so they could find that. Tyrion promises he can help them escape if they free him first, and Eris. Fortunately, Eris is already dead, starved to death in the cell east of Area 4A. So there you go. So anyway, so that's someone. Again, they'll find the leg with the dust in it, so he's probably someone I'm going to keep. I'm not going to go crazy with role playing him. If I have to role play him, if they let him out, then I'll really make his only goal to get his master out. 7B, Paladin's charge. So this person is Varen Silk, sentenced to death. He's violent. He convinced authorities to allow him the opportunity to be redeemed. The Paladin, he's a Paladin. Presently play. Oh no, there is a Paladin who pays for his incarceration and frequently visits the council and talk to him. He'll feign penitence, but he wants to escape, but he's not a good guy. So again, he's somebody that, unrelated to the story, I could totally drop him out and no one would know. So I'm going to give him a pink here, and if has to be a dead prisoner, then he's a dead prisoner, because it just would take too long to talk to all these people, and so if we're going slow and we're like 3 hours in at this point, I've got to knock him out. And then 7C is, yes, so this is Warden Park's actual son-in-law, Oban Relks. He was to be a temporary lesson that he was put in there His daughter, accused of an extramarital affair, but what started as a lesson has quickly turned into a nightmare. So yeah, he's he's there, and he'll be willing to do whatever the players need. He's not a bad guy. He's chaotic good, but he will be worried most about his father-in-law, who is in one of the cells here, was put by the prisoners up top. So I can't get rid of him. He's important. Then we go to Section 8, and you've got... So here's an optional encounter here. There are actually supposed to be rats that have eaten the guards here, and they'll attack, like a swarm of rats. But I got to be honest, I don't think I'm going to care about this, especially if it's running short on time. If, they're breezing through things and they're moving along, we're only an hour and a half in, sure, I could throw the rats in, give them one quick combat before the mean locks come. But then you got 4 characters here. So there's guards in room A. So this is where the guards that were killed, their bodies were all dragged and put there. They were stabbed to death by like wooden chairs that were sharpened, the legs of chairs that were sharpened, something like that. But they're guards here. They've been killed, and the rats are eating them. Then we have... oh, actually... No, that's what it was. Yes. So there's a lot of people here that have no purpose. They are prisoners that are awake but don't have any story. So I'm going to most likely consider all these prisoners to be either dead or going so insane from madness that they'd basically just sit there and repeat the words that the other people have been hearing. What we were, what we are, you will become, what we... I'm throwing off this whole thing now. Whatever they say. What we were, you once were. What you are, we once were. What we are, you shall become. They'll be chanting that over and over again. That's actually what one of the people in Section 9 does, so I think that's probably what I'll do. These people will just be so terrified of the mean locks that they're on the verge of insanity. So they're here. I don't want to have to create a backstory for them, so that's what I'll do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then I think that's it in terms of NPCs. I'm just looking back at the map to make sure. I could switch it over actually to... Yeah, I could switch it over to the other... So I can see the map now on my drive. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. So let's go and look at the final parts here and the map. So the map, when we get to 8, that's when, like I was saying, there's awake prisoners here. They're here, but they are not... Yeah, so you can see the legend here. My box is a little big here, but the awake prisoners are here. But I don't remember, and I'm going to look now to see if there is a reason why they're awake and have no information. Section 8. Okay, so 3 cells face each other. Chewing sounds are muffled by the whisper of 4 prisoners. Gripping the bars of the cell windows, they chant the phrase. Oh, they do chant a phrase, that's right. Big boys don't cry, in whispered unison. This is like what the guards would say to them. So they are saying what the guards would say over and over again while watching the rats eat them. This could be another opportunity actually for a sanity check. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe a charisma sanity check there, because it's, imagining the guards saying the interaction with the guards and the prisoners. Maybe I'll do that. So this would be another opportunity for a sanity check if I need it. The rats disperse. Okay. Yeah. So treat the prisoners as permanently confused. Okay, so yeah, that's what they'll do. I'll keep them there. They just will have no information other than that creepy effect. All right, the guards, and then you have the mean lock transformation. So if we go into here, yeah, let's go back to the map. So in this area, section 9, you've got a bunch of dead prisoners, and you've got A and B here. So in A, you have the warden. All right, this is where the warden is. Also the entry where the mean lock's burrowed in. So that's here. The warden is actually being currently he's stuck in the wall, but the mean locks are trying to pull him through. Mean locks are small creatures, so the warden, could stop them. Or sorry, he's being like blocked, like kind of like a cork. They're trying to pull him through. If the players were to try to save the warden, pull him out, or kill him to put him out of his misery, the mean locks attack. If they don't do that immediately, they can still gather more information and decide if they maybe want to run or get out of there. The mean locks will chase them, but they could maybe be prepared for the combat. If somebody were to just be like, I'm putting it out of his misery and stab him, the mean locks are going to attack right away, and there's going to be like 3 of them that just descend. So that's how the warden goes here. The warden is basically dead. The only way they could save him is if they were to use like a greater restoration spell on him, which they won't be able to do. By the way, this is a first level adventure in 3.0. I think it can be. I did it with 4 first level characters as well as 3 second level characters separate times. The first level characters survived. The 3 second level characters died. I think it does make a big difference with the number of creatures. Obviously D&D 5e is all about, whoever has the most, action economy is big here. So I feel like my 6 level 2 players are going to have no problem surviving with the way that I did it. So what I'm going to do is add a 5th mean lock. So instead of being 4 mean locks in total, 1 that they kill here early on, and then there'll be 3 that they have to encounter at the end here. I might have 1 here, maybe even have 1 get them in the hallway here, and then I might have the 3 descend upon them at the end. So 5 in total. I think that should be enough. A mean lock is actually CR2 in Volo's guide. So, I actually, the way I ran it was more of like a modified version of it from 3.0 because I wanted to do that rend ability with the wisdom damage. They don't have that in the Volo's guide one, but I think I'm going to just run the Volo's guide straight. It's got more HP. It's got a higher AC. I think it's 14 or 15 to hit it. So that's pretty decent. And that'll compensate a little bit for the fact that I have 6 characters. So I'll use the more beefed up version of them, but still keep the rend mind ability. And I'm going to show you that in a second. So here is the map, and that's basically it. Once they kill the mean locks, they have a couple of ways to get up. One of the creatures here, the man in cell block 7A, has the keys that these guards were carrying. So he's got a set of keys. And the module doesn't say this, which is kind of shocking to me. But if they get into any of these 3 rooms, they all connect. These 2 rooms have like mundane things in them, but this room, 12, is like a catwalk here. So you can go up top into vats of wine that's being stored here. And there's another elevator. Now, there's no way to go open this elevator. It doesn't have any information about it. It does say it's an elevator, and it's really frustrating that it doesn't give you any information about it, really. The only thing that it talks about here is... Oh, and actually, this is... Yeah. So it's a loading bay. There's, like I said, described it right. There's a door to the north, and a metal ladder with access to a catwalk. Doesn't even mention the elevator, but it's an elevator, clearly. This is where the elevator is labeled E. There's another one here. So I made it so that on the key ring, there's a key to that elevator. They can use an insight check to discern which one it might be, but they might have to fiddle around with it. One of the groups I ran was running away from the meal locks, and they were some people were holding them off at the door here, and they were trying to find the elevator key. It was really exciting. That is probably how I would imagine they'd get up. But if they are a little more creative and they decide to be a little more daring, and once they kill the Meanlocks, go through their tunnel, there is an area that climbs to the surface, so they could do that. Got dog barking upstairs. So anyway, those are the two ways that they can get back up. If at any moment they decide to try to go to the original elevator and plead for the criminals to let them back up, you can actually have a scene where Mr. D yells down to them and says that they just for safety, if they're trying to keep the guys up of being actual, uh, the guards, that they need to have the prisoners put up first, alone, and it's kind of shady, and the players should never do it. I don't think anybody would. So they'll probably never do that. But if they choose to do that, then the prisoners would go up and they'd be stuck down there and they had to figure out a way out. Also, if they learn that this is all a trick, if one of the prisoners were to mention what had happened and they realize that they are tricked, I think I might give them a sanity check there that they were deceived, a charisma saving throw. If they go to the elevator and they are really clueless and they take the false prisoners and they come and they say, hey, we're ready to go, and they really don't know that they were tricked, Mr. D will say that, and then I'll make a very easy insight check for anybody that doesn't figure it out on their own that they've been duped. And yeah, again, another sanity check. So there's basically opportunities for 1, 2, 3 at Warden Parks, and 4 here, and 5. Yeah, so there's opportunity for 5 natural sanity checks. First, when they meet the guy with the intestines. The second one, when they go to the man who's got his legs cut off and he's dying. When they get to the guards' bodies and hear the men chanting those words. And when they get to Warden Parks, because he's being turned into a Meanlock. And the 5th one would be when they are find that they're deceived. So there's 5 opportunities for saving throws. 2 of them are charisma. 3 of them would probably be wisdom. I don't see a intelligence here. They're not reading a book or a tome or something like that. So I think that's probably accurate. 5 opportunities for checks. If we get a couple of fails there, that would be kind of cool. We start getting madness effects going. And then let's see. The Meanlocks, when they rend mind, I'll make it a sanity point as well with the saving throw. So they, depending how many times the Meanlocks rend minds, they could end up bringing somebody down a lot on the madness chart. So yeah, I think it's possible that people could be going insane here. There's a lot of opportunities here. I'll make these natural ones low DCs. The Meanlock mind rend will be a little higher, like a 14, like it was in the book. Okay, so now that's everything here. Let's take a look at the Meanlock. So the stats are from 3.0, so it's going to be very, weird to anybody that hasn't played that edition. But, some of the things translate here. They have Fear Aura. They can communicate telepathically. That's actually still in the book. These are the saving throws. We're not going to use any of these. I am going to be using the Meanlock from Volo's Guide, which, I actually have here. Unfortunately, I don't have my document cam set up right now. So, but I will read off the Meanlock stats. All right, so you can compare them to what's on the screen here. So the actual Meanlock in 5th edition is considered to be a small fae. Their armor class is 15. The armor class in 3.0 is 13. They have 31 hit points in 5th edition. They only had 18 here. So that's a big difference. The speed is 30 feet. I believe here they have a speed of 20 feet. So that alone is kind of a big change for the Meanlock in 5th edition. So much beefier, much more able to fight physically in 5th edition. Then we go to their special abilities here. So the special abilities here are very detailed, as 3rd edition's abilities were. As a free action, Meanlocks can produce a fear effect. It was 30 feet, so they'd emit the fear effect. Whereas in 5th edition, the fear aura is basically if anyone starts their turn within 10 feet of a Meanlock, They must succeed on a DC 11 Wisdom saving throw or be frightened until the start of the creature's next turn. So that's a fear effect there. I think I'm going to keep it. I do. But yeah, that's, I mean, it's just a lot of opportunities for sanity saving throws, to be honest. And I don't know how many I should really give there, but this one's DC 11, so I might just keep it at DC 11. Yeah, light sensitivity they have in 5th edition. I believe they had something like that here, but no, they don't. I don't think that was a thing in 3rd edition, but I can't remember, to be honest. So they don't have this rule mean lock transformation anymore. The book just kind of explains how that happens. But, this is not going to come to play in our game, most likely. I don't foresee anybody being taken underground and then being rescued. So if this happens, it also takes a long time. I'm just going to say that we don't use this. Paralysis. So this goes along with their claws in 5th edition. So it's a thing here, but the claws, it's all built into the claws in 5th edition. So this one is basically a +4 to hit. It's 2d4 plus 2 slashing damage, and then the target must succeed on a DC 11 con saving throw or be paralyzed. So that, and they take the save each at the end of each of their turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. So there you go. So that's what it is. I'm going to use the straight up 5th edition version of that. No reason to change it. But this one is 3d6 rounds, much more forgiving in 5th edition. All right, and then we get to the Ren Mind. This, unfortunately, has been taken out of the Mean Lock stat block in 5th edition. It doesn't make sense to me, to be honest. This is kind of like the crux of what a Mean Lock is and does. So I'm going to put this back in. Once every 1d4 rounds, a Mean Lock can project thoughts and suggestions into the mind of a single creature, range 300 feet. I'll probably keep this as is, except it won't be a d4 rounds. I'll have it recharge on a 5 or a 6, like every pretty much ability that recharges in the game. And then if they fail to save, which I guess I should keep this at DC 11. Yeah, probably should keep it at DC 11 because it's going to be based on all their other saving throws. It would be weird to have a creature's saving throws be different. Although they won't know what it is, but I still think it should be uniform. Maybe I'll just make it 12 as a baseline here, because I'll make all the non-Mean Lock sanity checks 10, and I'll make these ones 12. I don't know. I might play around with these numbers, but the premise is there. And then, yeah, so this is what's really cool about it. It does wisdom damage. So what this does is it actually causes a d4 wisdom damage. Now, because I'm using a sanity mechanic, I don't think I'm going to be doing that. I don't think I'm going to actually take ability score damage. I think I'm going to just make it, in addition to the phantasm that it puts them through, a sanity point. So I think that's all I'm going to do. Just going to do work with that sanity mechanic that I have. And then you get to Dimension Door, which is what they have here. In 5th edition, it's called Shadow Teleport. It recharges on a 5 or 6. As a bonus action, the Mean Lock can teleport to an unoccupied space within 30 feet of itself, provided that both the space it's teleporting from and its destination are in dim or dark light, or darkness. Dim light or darkness. The destination need not be within line of sight. So Dimension Door was a little difference. You did need line of sight, and you got a 60-foot range. So, I think I'm just going to, just because I want to stay as uniform as possible, I'm going to stick to the Mean Lock here, although I don't think it's too much of a detriment. I'm just going to stick with the Mean Lock has here. So no need for sight and 30 feet. Recharging on a 5 or 6. I'm going to keep the Fear Aura, keep the light sensitivity. So if somebody were to cast a thing that gives bright light, sure, that would affect the Mean Lock. Keep the claws, keep everything. I'm just going to add the Ren Mind ability here. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So Ren Mind ability, which is going to do sanity damage, and that's going to be it. Okay, so that I'm happy with how the Mean Lock is. I think it's going to be too hard to make a totally new character, totally new monster here. I'll keep it almost exactly as is in the 5th edition book, but add that Ren Mind ability that does sanity damage. Although maybe I will throw in a D4 Wisdom too to just really freak out everybody. It's always fun when you take out ability scores, people start getting crazy. Maybe I will add that D4. You know, if it happens to 3 characters in total, it's not the end of the world. I'll try to space it out a little bit so that they're preying on the minds of, you know, different people. Okay. So I'm not going to write any of that down because that's so easy to remember. I'll just make a note of it in my page here that I'm going to add the Ren Mind to the original stat block. Okay. All right. So I'm good to go with that. And also, I already have the entire, you know, module here. I printed it out. I've gone through and because 3rd edition didn't do box text the exact same way. Sometimes the box text, like I can show you here, you know, I highlighted the box text so that I'll know to read it. But then there's some other descriptions that I've also highlighted that I will need to paraphrase or read when I go through, because it's like room descriptions are kind of like in there and they don't really have that. The box text is really more of like what a character might say, like what a speech might be, someone like the original jailer. You know, it doesn't always give the best description. So I'll kind of go through that, and I've highlighted areas that I know I need to read. And, you know, I've basically, like I said, I've done this before. So this DM prep's a little different. I'm not starting from scratch here, kind of going through and giving myself another repetition of all the material here. All right. So let's just take a look at the possible endings here. Yeah, there's another encounter that I'm scrapping completely. This assassin vine or vineyard. Basically, these assassin vines can attack them if they come up through the vineyard. If they were to come up through the mean lock hole, but I'm not going to put that in. Based on the run times of the others, one ran about 4 hours, but they were running slow. This is the group that was like interrogating every person and not letting them out, going really slow, like checking every square. And then I had a group that was kind of flying through it, you know, opening up doors. Sure, hey, you're fine, you come out. Not really questioning everybody so much, not taking too much time to think it through. They ended up dying, but you know, it was much quicker. That ended at like 3 hours exactly because they died. But they were at the finale part, the section 9 where they meet Warden Parks. So, you know, that's basically it. So yeah, so I think I'm ready. I'm just gonna go back to Roll20 and make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm gonna switch over the camera here. Yeah, here we go. Here it is. So, uh-oh, refresh. Okay. Well, either way, that's basically it for here. The other things that I'm gonna do probably tomorrow would just be to make sure I label everything right. I'm gonna probably put names underneath all the NPCs, so that way I don't have to scramble and look for the book. I'll put a little name tag under them so I remember who they are. And that's really it. You know, in terms of role playing wise of the NPCs, which I always feel like my biggest struggle is to role play NPCs. Like to, you know, I know that I can go through the first couple of questions that they have, but then once I lose track of like exactly what they would be doing in the situation, I kind of stumble, I feel like. So, you know, there's so many NPCs. I'm basically just going to make most of them standoffish and not want to engage too much, except for a couple. The doctor that's down here, he wants to really get out. The Blessed Paylor, which I feel comfortable role playing because I've done this a couple times and he has a prominent role in the game. and the warden's son. Those are the three big characters, I think, that you need to interact with. Oh, and the man with the keys. Um, but yeah, so that's that. Let's see. Let's check the chat again. Okay. Let's jump over to the chat. All right. So I think it was a nice little stream here. Hour and a half. No, 77 minutes. If I can do math. Hour and 15, hour and 17 minutes. Yeah. Well, anyway, like I said, this was a different type of DM prep. I'm basically going through my notes, just making sure that I'm ready for this campaign or this adventure on Sunday. And for those of you who would like to check out the game, because like I said, this is a diamond in the rough. All right. I'm going to create a guide where I go through, it's going to be short. I want to make it like 15 minutes or so, that a DM who wants to run this could watch that video, download the Dungeon Magazine issue and run this thing in 3.5, 4 hours, for anybody really, for their group. It could fit into any setting. It is fantastic. There's such a twist in this, and the players do not see it coming. Now, if they do see it coming, there's a couple of contingency plans you could do. Like, let's say they get to the chateau, they don't buy what the criminals are selling them, they don't believe them, and when they tell them, hey, you got to go down into the prison and get your prisoners, if they decide not to go down and confront them, they can, and they can fight the prisoner. They can fight the people up there, kill them even, but ultimately their job is to go get the prisoner. And even if they find out that these people are criminals, and they kill them, they still got to get the people they came for. So they're going to go down. They're going to find the people, and yeah, it's gonna be as scary as it wants to be. All right. And now you're going to have players that might stay up top. Let's say a player says, I'm not going down there. We'll split up. You three go down there. We'll stay up here. Well, once the three players that go down there to get the prisoners realize what's going on, they'll probably call the others down. Maybe they'll even bring the prisoners down with them. But there's no other way back up to their knowledge. So they're going to have to decide, are we going to have some people stay up there? And then that person's going to be up there and not be down there to help their friends. So they're probably going to want to jump down too. So they're going to have to figure out all these things. They may all go down, but then they might get stuck down here. So there are contingency plans. They have to get their people. That's the whole point. Nobody is going to be like, okay, well then we're going to go back to town and tell them that the place is overrun. We're done here, right? These are heroes. They've got to save these people because they're going to get killed by the Meanlocks. So one way or the other, they're going down here. It's whether they are completely deceived by the Rook and his crew, or do they know that there's something, terrifying going on, and then they have to go and be heroes. So one way or the other, it works. But yeah, the twist is great. Like I said, the characters go from being in a standard, pick up and delivery mission, and it turns into one of the most horrifying one shots I've really ever seen. So that's the stream for tonight. I'm going to log off here. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Twitch, please follow. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to making a guide for it. One that's concise, not me rambling on like this. But anyway, all right. See everyone on Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time for Supernatural 20, Escape from Meanlock Prison. I'll see you on the tabletop, everybody.